Hello, I am Brenda Ringwood, and I am your host for the Becoming the Best You TV talk show. This isn't any ordinary TV talk show. It is a show about becoming the best version of yourself. The change is possible if you really want it. We share stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, sharing encouragement, hope, and perseverance of overcoming from people from all walks of life who are doing wonderful things. It is our hope that the things they have struggled to overcome will encourage you to step up and do the things that you want to do in life. To step out and be heard. Don't let your past stop you. Don't let fear and doubt and what others say get in the way of your happiness. Stay tuned as we share amazing stories in hopes that your dreams will unfold. And remember to always put your crown on. Wear that crown, because only you rule your kingdom. I'm just hanging out at home working on some edits on some film that we shot. We really have some miraculous stories of some wonderful people who have truly come a long way in life, that have overcome challenges, but they stepped out and they did the things that they wanted to do, and they grasped the life that they wanted for themselves. And I got to think, well, maybe some of you don't know the reason behind the BTBY movement. What is my story and why this movement is so important to me, why you are so important to me, why your life matters to me, and why I want to see you become the best version of yourself. So I wrote this book, and I had a lot of friends tell me I needed to write it, and I really didn't want to. But the more I do this, the more I felt that it was needed just for myself, even to heal. So if you've got a story out there, sometimes it helps to write it down. And my book is called When the Truth Hunts You Down by Brenda Ringwood. You can get it on Amazon, or it's real short. It's just about 100 pages. So go check it out on Amazon. I'd love to hear more from you and what you think about the show and this movement. You can always find me at social media at Brenda Ringwood, BrendaRingwood@gmail.com, or at thingsbybrenda.com. Would love to see you. Hi guys, it is Brenda and it's Izzy, and we are doing another episode. We're always doing another episode, but today we have Tanya Joy Gibson. She has got a story that every little girl dreams of, but then life kicked in. So she's going to kind of explain that to us. But tell us, she's done pageants. Isn't she beautiful? She's done pageants forever. Talk to us about how you got started in that and what age.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I love it. And I love the live aspect of being on set. So that's really awesome. So I started doing pageants when I was about 13. And it's kind of a funny story because I was not from a pageant family. I was a singer and an actress, at school, and I always wanted to be an actress or a singer. I wanted to be on Broadway. I wanted to be in Hollywood. And there were no shows like America's Got Talent or The Voice. None of that existed. So the only real way growing up that I thought, the only way you're going to get heard is like get on a pageant, right? Miss America, you're on stage, you're on a national TV show, so people would see you. So that was my goal. So I had gotten a flyer sent to me from this pageant organization that, like soliciting to be in a pageant. So I filled it out. I didn't tell my parents. I just filled it out and I mailed it off. And a couple of weeks went by and I got this letter that was like, you have been selected as a state finalist. And I'm like, this is awesome. And so I start reading and I'm like, what am I going to sing? And what am I going to wear? And then I realized my mom's going to have to take me to get a dress. So I'm going to have to tell her.
You have to tell her something.
So I told my mom, can we go get this dress? Look at what I got. And she was like, she was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's a pageant and I'll be able to sing and it'll be so fun. So they kind of laughed and they were like, okay, fine. So I started and I went in cold turkey, didn't know what I was doing. I was the only one reading all the paperwork, so I missed all the fine print. I sang the Bette Midler song, Wind Beneath My Wings from Beaches.
Yes.
And I got a standing ovation. And then the pageant got done and we find out I was disqualified.
Oh no.
And so my parents were like, what do you mean she's disqualified? She had a standing ovation. Well, I didn't read the fine print that the song was only supposed to be 2 minutes or less. Wind Beneath My Wings is like 5.5 minutes long. You know,
So
I was
you
like
took
doing a
other people's
concert.
stage time.
I did. And my mom's like, well, why didn't anyone stop her? Well, we thought she was really good. We wanted to keep listening.
To the point though, they were going to disqualify you.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my start of pageants, but I loved it. And I won Miss Personality, which was voted on by the other contestants. And that was really exciting to me, you know, and there was a lot of girls, about a couple hundred at that age level. And I loved it. It was a very wholesome pageant. You couldn't wear a lot of makeup. You could wear blush and like mascara, but that was it. You had to have a very covered dress to the floor.
Yes.
It was, couldn't have hair people or makeup people. It could only be your family. So it was you had to be involved in community service and church. So it was a very good experience. And so I kept doing them. So I did 3 years. By the third year, I won Miss Teen Illinois for my age group, which was awesome. And then I got to go to Florida and compete for the national title, Miss America Teen. And then I won that and won the talent and I won the speech. It was really wild. And so I loved it. And then I, started speaking places, got asked to sing different places. And then I took about a year off and was supposed to go to Belmont University down in Nashville and start my college education and go into music business. And I got scared. And so I didn't go. But instead I ended up competing for Miss Illinois. And then I won Miss Illinois. So then I got to compete at Miss America in 1996.
That is just wonderful because those are what little girls dream of. Walking across that stage, getting the crown, and
it was surreal. Being on the Miss America stage, it was still in Atlantic City, so we still had the real long boardwalk that we went down for the parade. We still had the real long catwalk that we would do all of our, evening gown, and we'd get to walk that long walk. And it was the last year Regis Philbin was the host.
Oh yeah.
So
I used to watch him and Kathy Lee.
Oh yeah, me too. It was the first year Kathy Lee wasn't there. She was done with the pageants at that point, but it was surreal. I remember walking into the Atlantic City ballroom before they set it up, and it's just gigantic and it's very overwhelming. I mean, we all were kind of crying, and just the fact that we were there, and there's only 50 girls a year that get to be there. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. It was a difficult experience, but it was amazing.
With that being said, so at 13, do you think if you would have waited for other people to believe in what you knew you were capable of, do you think you would have had all those experiences?
That's a good question. I don't know. My parents were really supportive, and they always were like, you're a star and you're going to do all this and stuff. But I think I just really knew what I wanted at that age. And if I didn't know that, I probably, I was fearful, but not with certain things. I was very confident in being out. It wasn't until I got older that started to get lost in me, which was kind of interesting. But it definitely shaped who I am. And I don't know if I could have gotten through some of the hard things had I not gone through some of that when I was young, which I'm grateful for.
Absolutely. But then life got happened. You got married,
Yeah.
kids, and
Life happened.
Yes.
Once I finished Miss America and I didn't place at Miss America, I actually got disqualified at Miss America.
how did that
Long
happen?
story. It's a pretty long story, but ultimately I was a very strong believer. I knew where my faith was. I knew where my morals were, and I was already talking out against some of the things that were happening. It was during the years that kind of It Takes a Village to Raise a Child was coming out. And at 19, 18, young, I still was kind of going, no, it takes a parent. It takes two parents. And we need to focus on the family unit because our families are falling apart. Divorces are happening, very quickly. It's running rampant through the church. And at 19, I didn't have all the words, but I knew that was the core. And the directors didn't like that. They didn't agree with that mindset. And so I think that I was coming up against some of that already, some of that political stuff. And so they didn't fill something out correctly. And I got disqualified.
They did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, probably because they had been in the system for 40, 50 years. I mean, they were they knew what they were doing.
Created the system.
Yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing. But at any rate, I got finished with that. it was it was a letdown to not have placed. I was getting a lot of good feedback and press, and people were saying they thought I would do well, and then I didn't even make top 10. So it was really the first time that I faced a great loss. And like, well, now what do I do? Because I had everything in this. I didn't even get to sing on TV because of being disqualified. I was in the top 10, and you only got to see those top 10. So I came home and was hit with the reality of, now what? And ended up going to ministry school, which was awesome. I loved that, and met my first husband. And it seemed like a God thing. It seemed like this was the man God brought to me. So we got married about a year later. And then I just kind of went on with life. And I just kind of forgot about everything. I didn't process it. I didn't know how to process it. And I just moved on and started having babies, had 3 children. And the marriage was very rocky. There was infidelity and, just a lot of dishonesty and just different things. It was very difficult. And I was, from a upbringing where you don't get divorced. So now what do you do? Exactly. What do I do?
Stay unhappy or
exactly. And there was just so much stress and tension, of course, with all of that. My son was almost killed in a freak ski jumping accident when he was 7. My youngest had been hospitalized. I got diagnosed with a blood disease. It was just thing after thing after thing. And I finally got to the point where I kind of went, Lord, I can't do this. And I felt released, that I knew that biblically I had a reason I could get divorced. And so filed for divorce. But again, I didn't process it all. I just kept going. And I mean, some of it is natural when you're forced into being a single mother and you've got 3 kids, and I hadn't been working. Now I have to get a job. I have to figure out where's my youngest going to go every day.
Right.
I had to survive. I was in survival mode. And so I just did my best to survive. Well, then another man came and, he'll help take care of us. And so I just jumped into it.
So they promised.
Correct. And that was worse than the first. There was a lot of abuse in that relationship. I believe that I know it caused some irreparable damage on both of my daughters. And very quickly, I knew I had to get out of this. This was an unsafe environment. But again, I'm not functioning as a whole person during that time. I'm dealing with health issues. I'm on tons of medication. Not that those are excuses, but that plays an impact. And I still hadn't dealt with the roots of the issues. So that ended. And then I started to process some of the root issues. And as I would it would be like I would start to process, and then another man would come and show up, and I would fall to that. And so I've been through 3 marriages. And at the end of the 3rd one, it shifted, because I got to a place where I sat down and I went, okay, I can't have gone through all of these things, very similar situations, and say it's all the other person's fault. That's just not reality.
You started taking
I started
responsibility,
taking
yes.
ownership, and I started saying, what am I doing? What am I not seeing? What red flags am I missing? And how do I change that? And so I dug in deep. I started reading the word every day. Even if I didn't understand it, I was like, I don't care. I'm doing it. I mean, I've been a Christian since I was 3. I accepted Jesus at 3 years old. It was very real, but I didn't read the Bible every day,
Right.
So I started every
Even as
day.
adults, we don't read
We
it
don't.
every day. We
And I
should.
read it chronologically. So I was like, I want to know all the parts I've missed. And then I started going through inner healing, and I started going through deliverance, and I started going through, all these different ways of diving in and going, where are my issues?
Yes.
And I started finding them, right? And I started seeing, okay, I haven't leaned on the Lord for my provision. I've leaned on men. That's why I've had these men over and over, because God is my provision.
Right.
And what does that mean? And that's a scary journey.
That
That is not an easy journey. That's a scary thing. It's walking on the water. I felt like the Lord said, get out of the boat and don't look down. And I was like, what?
Right.
So that's kind of, that has been a journey now for the last 2 years that I've been on. And it took about a year until I started seeing the change. And I started seeing my decisions were changing, and I started seeing I was at peace when I shouldn't be, when all around me is in chaos. And I knew that wasn't me, because I've never been able to maintain that. And then the Lord started opening doors and allowing me to share my story, and allowing me to
And that's
actually
also
turn
healing.
it. Yes.
Healing.
It's been very, very healing. And I feel really humbled that I've made all these bad choices, right? And that the Lord still would use me is pretty amazing.
He can use you too. It doesn't matter what you've done.
That's right.
But how did your self-esteem and your confidence, what happened to that during, because you went from pageant to being on a stage
Yeah.
to
Oh,
abusive
man.
relationships?
I was not, I was very confident when I was young, and you have to be. If you're gonna get on a stage in a swimsuit and heels, you have to be pretty confident, right? But then what did it to me was the infidelity. When my first husband, when I found out he was unfaithful, I was like, and my husband's had major addictions to pornography. And I talk about that because I feel like people don't discuss that. And people need to understand that actually affects the brain similar to cocaine. So the
And that
brain gets
is having an
rewired.
affair.
It is
Yes,
having an
having
affair.
an affair.
Yes. And the church doesn't. So I always, it's a heavy topic, but I always talk about it because I don't want to shove it under the rug,
Right.
because that was the root, and that root is what ends up leading to sex trafficking and,
Yes.
abuse of women. And I just won't stand for it. So,
What's the point of getting on stage if you can't talk about what you're passionate about?
very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Not everybody can handle it, but
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there because it affects, there
They don't
are,
have to listen to you if they don't want
correct.
to. So,
but it
yeah.
really affects so many women, and
Yes.
that mindset that women aren't valuable. That's ultimately, it's a mindset that the culture and the entertainment culture of pornography is putting out there that devalues women. Ultimately, we don't need to be treated that way. We don't need to be looked at that way. So anyway, that's my soapbox on that.
No,
But
I hear you. And people do. Not only do men devalue women, we tend to devalue ourselves.
correct,
And that's not
because
good.
then we're comparing and we're going, well, do I look as good as that? Well, I don't know. Can I do that? I don't want to do that, but that's what they want. It's a mess. It is a disastrous mess. And it's
Yes.
really destroying sexuality the way God created sexuality for intimacy. And so that was the thing that started to destroy my confidence, because I was pregnant when I found out with my second child. And so I'm like, I'm like big and pregnant and uncomfortable and like, what am I going to do now? Now I'm ugly.
Right.
Now I have no value. Now I'm not worth anything. And over the course of those marriages, it just destroyed it. So by the time the whole reason I got back on stage was a friend of mine I ran into, and she said, I'm doing a show. You would be perfect for this part. Please come do it. And I was like, I cannot get on stage again. Like, I don't have a memory. I don't think I could even do it. Like, I don't even think I'd have confidence. I had kept singing, but at church. And so I wasn't performing. I wasn't challenging myself as
worshiping.
Yeah, it was worship, and that was easy to do. And I was behind a keyboard or behind, it was different because my weight has fluctuated. I lost 90 pounds like 2-3 years ago. And so thank you. But I've been very heavy and I've been thin. So I understand, but
Right.
I have super blonde hair for a long time. You get treated totally different when you got blonde. I've kind of lived all
makes
these.
sense.
No, and
Especially with all the blonde.
it's
the dumb blondes.
disgusting. I
Yes.
know, but well, that's kind of how you get treated.
Mhm.
You just get treated like a dumb blonde. It's ridiculous. But anyway, but I liked the blonde hair. Anyway, I'm now back to my more natural. But so it destroyed my confidence. But interestingly, when my friend, I said yes, I would go back and do this show. And when I did that, she really helped pull those things that were deep within me. They never left. They were still deep within me. These were the talents and the skills God gave me. He put me on this earth to be able to do these things, right? But life destroyed them. So my calling and my destiny, the devil was after. He's out to kill, steal, and destroy.
That's what he does. He does a good job.
He does. And if he can get someone's destiny, then he blocks all the things that destiny is going to impact.
Yes.
And that was what he did. And so as this last 2 years have gone by, it's really been, my confidence is building up. People would think I'm very confident. I'm not. I can get up on stage. I can get up, like I said, and perform, but I am like nervous inside, and I'm my biggest critic. And I get off and I have to go listen and go, oh, I screwed up there.
But
Listen.
nobody else knows you did.
No, but that's something I'm still that's how my mind works with it. So it's coming back. It's coming back. But just because you've been a pageant person doesn't mean that you have all the confidence in the
And a
world.
lot of people assume that people are very confident because they're on stage, or because they are an actor, or because
Yeah.
they can sing. And you'll find out more than not, they are introverts.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love being with people, and I love, if I know people, I'm very comfortable and I'm not a total like the life of the party. But if I don't know people, I will not just go mingle. Like I will stand in the corner and wait for someone to come over and talk to me. It's kind of funny.
I totally resonate with that. Brenda and I talk about this a lot. I did a little bit of modeling as a kid, and they assume if you're in that role that you're confident.
Right.
Well, guess what? I hated looking in the mirror every day.
Yeah.
And even as I grew up, and everybody saw that as my strong suit.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it, so I didn't value it.
And it plays a number
Oh, it sure does.
on your brain, because
It
you're
sure
like,
does.
I'm doing this and everyone thinks this
Right.
and I don't think it, and I don't want them to know I don't like
Right.
it plays a number
Right.
on your mind.
So I would like to talk about, you mentioned doing pageants, being confident, and then going into the performing world, being confident. But then you said there was something that happened in between, and when you realized that you were going to be getting on stage to speak,
Yeah, it's a whole different
you
story.
didn't feel as confident.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So tell us about that. I mean, getting on stage and being vulnerable.
Right.
Is a totally
So
different
different.
thing.
It's so different. And it's been interesting because I'm actually doing acting classes right now and with a professional studio in Nashville. And it's been through those classes that I've started to realize and actually feel a little bit more confident about getting up to share my story, because the whole concept is not being taught how to act, but how to be real and vulnerable. And so the whole thing with, when you really look at good actors or actresses, it's because they actually know how to connect and just put their real self into it. And I'm like, this is wild. This is one, changing the way I look at acting, but two, it's changing the way I live, because it's giving me that ability to go, it's okay. Like when you just step out and are real, that's the part that can actually impact somebody. My reality and my story may not touch everybody, but most likely there's bits and pieces that
Touches
everyone
somebody.
has been affected by. And I can't, if I just get up and give a nice speech and it's not real, that's going to do nothing.
Right.
But if I can get up and share and be vulnerable, it opens the door, because then somebody else might feel they can be vulnerable and they can share their story, and then they can move on from their
I can
story.
do it too.
And they feel
That's
relatable.
Or she's telling my story.
Right.
Yes.
She's telling my story for me. I can relate to that. Yes.
Yep. And that's how transformation happens. And that's how we can change our world. That's how we can
Yes.
change the future from the past, and have that ability to go, I don't want to live this way. I'm going to do it this way. And so I like to say, you do it afraid.
Yes.
I do a lot of things afraid.
Yes.
I just, it's like just do it. I hate to talk about Nike, but
Just
just
do
do
it.
it. It's like that kind of a thing. Do it
Right.
afraid. Do it
Right.
afraid is, yeah. I should get like
So,
a bracelet made with
You
that or
should, because
something.
you just marketed them.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is your favorite genre to sing?
Broadway,
Mm.
mostly Broadway. That's if I love, I also love country. If I was gonna do like mainstream, it'd be country, or even like the 30s and the 40s, the big band type music. Yeah, I'm not necessarily I'm not a pop singer at all, really. I mean, I have qualities to my voice, I think, that are very pop style, but I grew up doing a lot of Disney songs. So I've done a lot of that kind of music, but really, I think Broadway is,
Can
Yeah.
you give us a sample?
oh my goodness.
We like to put.
Oh,
people on
I
the
know.
spot.
Like my biggest problem is thinking of what song to sing.
Your favorite?
How about I'll just do like Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a beautiful
And I
song.
haven't warmed up today, so just
That's
FYI.
okay. It's better than anything I can do.
No. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I?
Oh my gosh, I got just chills. That was beautiful.
It's a real low version for this time of the
But it's
day. Later on, we can sing it a
beautiful.
little higher.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So in a perfect world, and you could have anything that you wanted, what would that be?
Oh, boy.
Career-wise.
Yeah, career-wise, I would perform.
Mhm.
Yeah, singing and acting. Honestly, like Broadway or TV, or even film,
Mhm.
that would be, yeah, that's what I'm aiming for right now. I actually just got booked for a Christian movie. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah,
And
so,
aren't you gonna try out for
And-
sight and sound?
yes,
theaters in
and I
Branson?
have an audition. I submitted to Sight and Sound in Branson, not expecting to hear anything, and they wrote me right away.
I'm sure they did.
And asked if I would come and do an in-person. So
Mhm.
that'll be in August. So who knows? I mean,
Right.
if that went through, I could be walking into that next year. So I don't know. The Lord has, it's that journey. I just keep feeling like I just need to be obedient and say yes. And as I'm obedient and keep just following what his instructions are, he's opening these doors that are blowing my mind.
Well, we know some people in Nashville we're gonna get you in contact with.
Ooh,
Yes. Christine,
okay.
we know somebody has a recording studio and a record label.
Really?
Yes, we do.
Well, that would be awesome. I always thought I was supposed to go to Nashville. It's funny.
Actually, you were in Nashville the first time we talked.
Yeah. And Nashville, it's interesting how the Lord does things, because I was supposed, if I would have gone to Nashville at 18, I wouldn't have probably done Miss Illinois, but I potentially could have ended up in the music industry. I wouldn't have maybe had my children. So, it's just
Yeah.
the Lord just takes us on these
He does.
journeys. And honestly,
And
I'm
when we choose not to
grateful.
listen to him, we go the long way around.
Correct.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of grateful now because I didn't know who I was then. And I didn't have a voice. I didn't have my voice.
Yeah.
I have my voice because of what I've walked through now.
That's
So
amazing. It's beautiful.
I'm grateful for that.
So give us some words of wisdom for parting. What would you tell them they're watching that maybe doesn't have the confidence level, or they think they're not beautiful enough? Because we tend to think that the outside beauty is what
Yeah.
matters, and that goes away.
It does go away,
It goes away.
and it changes over
Mhm.
time.
It
And
does.
I would say, get to know yourself and get to the point. I would always say, go to the Lord, seek him out for how he created you and what he put in you. Because when you find that, you find who and what you are here for.
Mhm.
And then the interesting thing, the thing I'm finding, as I'm like, oh, I turned 45 in 2 weeks, and it's like kind of scaring me. But
Wait till you get 50.
but the funny thing is, I feel more beautiful now with my wrinkles and my, stretch
Mhm.
marks and all of that, because I see who I am in Christ,
Right.
and because I'm content with who I am inside.
Yes.
So the more you can get content with who you are and go through those healing steps, and don't be afraid of an area that you go, I don't like that about myself, I don't want to talk about it. Face it. Because once you face it, it goes away, and
It
then you
sure
don't have
does.
to deal with it anymore, right? So those are, I guess, some nuggets, and it's definitely not about outward beauty. When
No,
we are
it's not.
comfortable who we are inside, we become more beautiful on the
That's
outside,
right.
for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for singing. My goodness, that was wonderful. And you have an event today and tomorrow that you're doing.
Yes, I am so
Mhm.
excited. The Safe in His Arms event. I'm going to be singing and sharing more of my story, and leading some worship. I'm so
Mhm.
excited for that. And are we going to air this
We-
before
we-
then?
This won't be aired before then, but you
Okay.
guys can go back and watch the recap. So just stay
Perfect.
tuned. It'll be on the site where you can go back and actually hear her testimony, her story, hear some more of her wonderful singing. So always remember, guys, to change your mindset. That will change your actions, and it will change your life. So thanks for
Yes.
watching. We have more incredible stories coming soon.